Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to both of you. I'll just pick up on that.
I think the regime has more logistical resources in terms of the equipment they have. The first-line equipment in anywhere in Libya is held by the regime forces. There are two special brigades, the 32nd and the 9th, which are very, very loyal to Gadhafi and do his bidding. They're the most robustly equipped with Russian equipment, to include air defense, artillery, tanks, mechanized equipment. And they appear to be much more disciplined about how they treat and repair that equipment. So I just think from a standpoint of attrition,
right,
that over time, I mean, this is kind of a stalemate back and forth, but I think over the longer term, that the regime will prevail.
You said you were concerned or thought that in the long run the regime might actually prevail because of its superiority in logistics, weaponry, all the rest. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's certainly my concern, that people have begun to say it looks like it's heading to a stalemate, but I think if you start to balance the forces on both sides, it's not a balance, and that the regime, there's a real probability that the regime will prevail against the opponents.
McCain, and asking you to pass that along to the men and women with whom you work.
That's a very bad outcome here, and I think it calls out to our leadership here in Washington and throughout the Arab world and the rest of the world that is invested in security in the Middle East, and I think invested in seeing the peaceful democratic uprisings that have occurred succeed. Really calls on us to act quickly to not let this happen.
Sir, I just would suggest to you that there is perhaps another outcome here, which would be a reversion to the pre-Gadhafi, pre-King history of Libya, in which there were three sort of semi-autonomous mini-states.
Right.
So you could end up with a situation where Gadhafi would have Tripoli in its environs, and then Benghazi and its environs could be under another mini-state. And then there was another, and of course there's a lot of history here with the tribes, and the tribal dynamics would have to be factored in here. So you could have an outcome where you'd have both parties survive.
Senator Gillibrand, Senator Manchin.